Hi, welcome to this Solidworks tutorial for beginners. Today I'm going to show you around the Solidworks interface and introduce some very basic modeling techniques in Solidworks in order to model this charging block. So just as a disclaimer, we're going to model a super simplified version of this charging block and it has many details that we're going to skip. So if you have this same charging block at home and you have a digital caliper like this, you can practice following along and taking your own measurements to get the dimensions on the block. But if you don't have either of those things, don't worry, I will give you the dimensions myself as we go. The first thing you want to do is open SolidWorks and you should see this box pop up right here. You're going to select New Part and just click that. So now we're seeing the main SolidWorks interface come up. And here you're going to want to right click on each of these three planes in order to show them. So this is a good time to explain the mouse in SolidWorks. Essentially, you're going to want to make sure that you have a 3-button mouse. That would mean a left click and a right click, and then you should have a scroll wheel in the middle that's also clickable. So right now I'm going to right click on the plane and click the eyeball icon to show it. And you can see each time I do that, the planes are showing up in the middle right here. Before we start any modeling, let's go ahead and save our file. So SolidWorks does not save to the cloud. That means you're going to need to do all the saving yourself. It's not going to automatically save. So if your computer crashes and you haven't saved, you're going to lose your work. So we're going to click Save As. And then right here, I'm just going to type the name that I want for my file. So I'm going to call it Charger Christie. Okay, so now let's look around the interface a little bit. There are a lot of buttons up here. Some of them you're going to use often, some of them you're not going to want to use often, but if you accidentally click the wrong one, you might get confused about what's going on. So this button, for example, controls the types of things that you might want to show. So if you click this tiny drop-down arrow, there's a bunch of more specific controls to show things. This one would show planes or not. But if you just click the whole thing, it's going to hide a lot of what you've done and you might get confused. So just know that that's there. You can toggle it on and off. This one, the display style, is also something that you might accidentally mix up with this, which is the view orientation. So just pay attention to the difference between those two. These buttons will not do anything that cannot be reversed. But if you do click this one, just know that if your product starts looking like it has no color and it's all lines, you might have clicked one of these wireframes or lines removed items. So this is the normal one up here, shaded with edges. And then here, this can kind of turn around our display to look at it from different viewpoints. With your mouse, if you click and hold the scroll wheel, you can also rotate your viewpoint. If you scroll the wheel, you can zoom in and out. And it will kind of zoom toward wherever you have the mouse centered. So depending on where I put my mouse, I'm going to zoom into a different area. If you get completely lost, like you zoom way off the screen, come back here and click this and you'll get recentered again. So let's get started modeling the charger. As we model the charger, we're only going to be using some of these solid model features that you'll see up here on the Features tab. So if you click one of these other tabs by accident and you're looking for a feature, click back here for the Features tab. I also want you to note that there's a search bar up here. So if you cannot find something that I'm talking about, you could always type it here in the search bar and that might help you find it. So we're going to model the charger upright. So in order to create our charger, we're going to want to create a plane that's at the height of basically the white plastic part. So I'm going to want to make a plane that's 1 inch above the top plane. In order to do that, I'm going to click on the top plane. Then I'm going to go up here and click on Reference Geometry. And I'm going to click Plane. So now, since I had selected the top plane, it is suggesting that I'm going to make a new plane that's just offset from the top plane. So if you fail to click the top plane, you're going to want to go over here. You could delete whatever is here by clicking the delete key or right clicking and selecting delete, and you could now select the top plane and put it there. I've already got top plane there. So now what I need to change is this distance here. Right now the distance is offset by 0.1 inches, which isn't enough, so I'm going to type a 1 in there. And now I have a plane that is 1 inch above the top plane. If I wanted my plane to be below the top plane, I could click this button or check this box for flip offset, and now you can see it's below, but I don't want to do that. I want it to be above. And I can click this check mark over here or over here on the right to create the plane. Okay, so I said that I would show how to change the units. You can see down here on the right, it says IPS. That stands for inch, pound, and second. If you needed to change to millimeters, you could click here, centimeters, meters. So this is where you can always toggle the document units. For now, let's stay in inch, pound, second. Let's also get into a habit of saving our file as we go. So I'm going to save. So now what we want to do is examine our charger and look for the axis of symmetry. So here I have the charger again here. We can see it's kind of symmetrical down the center, but this piece is off to the top. It's not centered on that space, so it doesn't have four-way symmetry, just two-way symmetry. So we can use that to our advantage and avoid repeating the same procedure twice. For example, if we made, imagine if we modeled this whole metal part and then we just modeled the same metal part again, that would be a huge waste of our time, especially if we were creating a new design and let's say later our team decided to change something about both of the metal parts, then we would have to do that whole change twice. So it's much smarter if we can just model one half of a symmetrical object and then we can mirror it across that plane of symmetry and avoid duplicating our work, because we can always go back and edit one side and that would propagate forward to the mirrored side. So we found the axis of symmetry. Now what we need to do is we need to start by creating a sketch. And the sketch is always kind of the basis of how we go from 2D to 3D in Solidworks, especially when we're using these solid modeling features. So we're going to do our sketch on the top plane, and this is going to kind of draw the bottom profile of our object. So what I've done is I've selected the top plane. I could either select it here on the left or here in the middle. I'm right clicking on the top plane and I'm choosing this sketch button, which I guess it kind of looks like a line with maybe a gear or a star or a flower on it. Click that button. Now you can see that it automatically kind of gave us this orthographic or straight on view of the plane we're sketching on, which is perfect. And we're now inside a sketch. We know we're inside the sketch because it says exit sketch up at the top left. This is also another exit sketch button up here. In order to start my sketch, I'm going to start with this corner rectangle. So left click on the corner rectangle. I am now going to click somewhere on this. So this is actually a plane that was going up through the center of our product. This plane is going up through the middle of the screen, but right now it just looks like a line because we're looking at it straight from above. We do want to get our sketch coincident with this plane. So coincident basically means intersecting. And you can see whenever the pencil point is hovering over the plane, I now have this little yellow box that's showing, and the yellow box has the coincident icon in it. And the plane turns orange. So when that happens, like if I click over here, I'm not going to be coincident with the plane. But as long as the orange is showing on the plane and the yellow box is there, that's where I want to click. So I'm left clicking here and I'm dragging. If I clicked here, I would be coincident with that plane, but that's not what I want to do. I want to put it down here, kind of something like this. So don't worry about the size yet. We'll fix the size in a second. So click again to exit the rectangle. Now I want to get this tool. Oh, actually we'll do one other thing first. So I'm going to right click and choose the select arrow. That's one way to get out of the rectangle drawing tool and just into the regular mouse again. With the regular mouse, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here and I'm going to try to find this. Do you see that very tiny circle with kind of two diagonal lines through it? That's the midpoint of this line here. And you can see the midpoint symbol came. And over here we see the relations midpoint 1. So that midpoint, which I have clicked on, that turned it light blue, I want to make that midpoint connected to this front plane. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to hold down the control key on my keyboard, and now I'm also going to click the right plane there, or sorry, the front plane. Now see over here on the left, we have the selected entities, front plane and point 1. I'm going to make those coincident. I'm going to click here. That's the coincident symbol again, like an intersection. Click there. That added this coincident relation between those two entities, the front plane and point 1. So now my rectangle is like perfectly centered on, in between, or perfectly centered around this plane, I guess. Okay, so that was one thing I wanted to do. The next thing is I need to make sure my rectangle is the right size. So I know from measuring the charger that it's 1/2 inch wide. So here, sorry, I did that really quickly. Let's redo that. I click the Smart Dimension tool. The Smart Dimension tool is going to help me add dimensions to my sketch. So I'm going to hover over this line so that it turns orange. Then I know I'm going to select it when I click on it. Click on the line. Now I have it selected. Click again. That is now creating my dimension. So now I have the opportunity to type my dimension here. I'm going to type 0.5 because I know that the whole charger is 1 inch wide and I'm just drawing half of it right now. So I'm clicking check. Now this line, it looks way out of proportion, but we'll fix it. Now we're still on the Smart Dimension tool. Click this when it's orange to select it. Click again, and now type 1, and that's going to make it be 1 inch. Okay, we are almost done with this sketch. The last thing we need to do is round the corners because this the charger has rounded corners. So we could round the corners after we're done with the sketch, but to make it simpler for this time, we're just going to round the corners now. So we're going to use this tool, which is called the Sketch Fillet tool. This word fillet is different from fillet, which would be like a cut of meat. Fillet basically means a rounded corner. So we're going to click this, and we're going to click the corner that we want to round. So we're going to round these 2 corners. I'm going to go ahead and click them again when they're orange. Oh, it's saying that it's going to delete my midpoint. Let's see. I think that's okay. It's going to happen, but it'll be okay. It's not going to move. Okay, so we have those 2 corners rounded. This isn't quite round enough compared to looking at the actual charger. I can see it's much rounder. So over here, I can change the fillet parameter. I'm going to change it to 0.2. And that looks more proportional with the product we want. So I will now click this check mark, which will complete the sketch fillet. And now we have the profile that we want. So I don't know why we're still in sketch fillet. There we go. So now, again, we're still in our sketch. What we want to do is now exit the sketch. So we will exit the sketch by clicking here, or over there on the left, exit sketch. We're going to quickly save. I'm just going to push Control S. Now we have our sketch here. Basically, we want to extend this 2D sketch into 3D and reach it up to the height plane, and that will make us kind of half of our charger's shape. So in order to do that, we're going to click this, the extruded boss base. So now once I click that, it was already selecting my sketch. Let's show you what happened. So my sketch here was highlighted already. If I didn't do that and I clicked extruded boss base, it would ask me to select what I wanted. So then I could come over here and select my sketch and the same thing would happen. Essentially, or I could click in this box and select my sketch. But you want to select your sketch and use this feature, the boss extrude. Now the distance, the direction here, if you click these arrows, it will reverse the direction of which way it's going to extrude. Blind is just basically means straight, forward, opposite, like perpendicular to the sketch. There's also other options. We're going to click up to surface here, and we're just going to use our height plane that we already created, and we're going to extrude up to the height plane. So we have up to surface here. We clicked in this box, which is where you can select the surface that you want to go up to, and we clicked height plane, and we have our sketch here. And now we can click check to create our feature. So you can see now it turned gray. That's kind of means that we have a solid body right here. And you can see in our solid bodies folder, we currently have one solid body, which is boss extrude 1. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create the first metal prong. And the metal prong is going to kind of come out right here where I'm showing with my mouse. That position right now is not going to be easy to get to because we don't have any sort of plane there to draw on. So we're going to want to create a new plane. I think the easiest way to do that is going to be an offset from the right plane. So I am selecting the right plane by clicking on it. I could have also clicked on it over here. I'm going back to reference geometry and I'm clicking plane. So you can see it's already creating an offset from the right plane, but it's way too far away because we want it to be here in the middle. The distance that I measured with my caliper was about 0.2 inches. So that's kind of where the metal prong is going to start. Okay, so we have our plane ready. I'm going to click the check mark. Over here, I'm just going to go ahead and rename this. Maybe. There we go. Just click once, I guess, to rename it. Metal prong plane. Now, I'm going to want to sketch on that metal prong plane. So again, we have, remember up here, the eyeball. If you want to see what things are looking like without 1,000 planes going through them, you could click the eyeball and then click the eyeball again to make the planes come back. So I'm clicking the metal prong plane and now I'm clicking this icon in order to sketch on it. My sketch is actually going to be up here, which right now looks like it's outside of the plane, but actually the planes can always be resized like this because any plane, if you think about in geometry, the plane is really stretching infinitely out of the space that we're seeing. So it just doesn't display infinitely because that would be hard to understand on the computer. So we have the metal prong plane and we are now going to use some different sketch tools to help us. So let's start by creating a big rectangle again. This time I'm going to make my rectangle start right here in this middle. So I know that the metal prongs are symmetrical. Maybe I can show you in the camera if you don't have one of these. So the metal prong is symmetrical, like this side of the metal prong is the same as this other side here. I'm actually going to give 4-way symmetry to my metal prong to avoid repeating some steps, and you'll see how I'm going to do that in a second. So I'm starting with the rectangle, right? It's not going to let me click coincident to that and that at the same time. So let's just draw the rectangle right here, right click to get the select tool, and then click this dot, hold down Control, click this plane, click make coincident. When you let go of Control, click make coincident. And now it's coincident to both of those. I'm going to click check to exit that properties box. Okay, so now I have my rectangle. It's definitely too big right now. So let's use the smart dimension. This dimension down here should be 0.13. And then this height over here should be 0.6. Okay, click the smart dimension again to get out of that smart dimensioning. Now I'm going to use a line to kind of draw the angled part on the top right. So I'm clicking line. Up here, I'm going to draw a line from here to here, basically. So I'm clicking there when it's orange, click here when it's orange. Now my line could just be continuing forever. I could either right click and get back to the selection arrow, or I could press escape, and that will also get me out of the line. So now I have a line. And one thing to note is I'm just going to draw a weird line. Don't do this, but when I'm making lines, right now the inside of my shape is not filled in. Once I kind of complete an area, it will turn this kind of grayish blue color. So that means we have like a fully enclosed area. I'm just going to Control Z to undo what I just did, but I wanted to show you what that color means. So this line is not really part of that enclosed area because it's just intersecting randomly through it. So that line is blue, but the other lines are black. I am now going to use this trim, this scissors. You can see as I hover over it, it shows how it's going to work. So that little video is showing that as you click it and drag your mouse across a line, that line would get trimmed off until like the next point that it's intersecting with something. So I'm clicking the scissors. I'm going to click up here, holding down the mouse, drag across this line, and I'm still dragging and crossing that line, let go. So now my line is still blue, but it's part of this whole shape, and now that whole area is still the grayish blue. Okay, I'm almost done drawing this, but actually I'm going to dimension it again. So now I know that this little part is supposed to be 0.09, which was pretty close to what it was. And then this part, okay, so this dimension, let's say I click this line. I still have the smart dimension. I could dimension it two different ways. One is like perpendicular to the line, if you see that. The other one is just like perpendicular to the page. So I want to do this one because that is the way that I measured the measurement that I'm about to type in. And that was 0.23. And the way I switched between those two is just the place that I clicked. Like I moved my mouse until it was showing the one I wanted. So 0.23, press the check. Okay, we are almost done. We just need to add the hole. So I'm going to add a circle, and then I'm going to trim off the parts that I don't want. Oh, first I better get out of the smart dimension because that would mess me up. Now I want a circle. I'm just going to estimate for now. So I'm going to make the center of the circle be on this line, hover over it and click. Then for now the circle will be however big, and click again. Now let's trim it, and then the last thing we'll do is dimension it. So trim again with the scissor tool, click and drag through this, and then I also want to click and drag through this. So now I have kind of a hole. Now smart dimension, I'm going to smart dimension from this point to this point, click, and I want that to be 0.13. And you can see that grew kind of proportionally to a circle. And then I think that there's one last dimension that I need. Oh, which is I measured from the center of the circle, which is that dot, to the top up here. So click both of those, and that dimension is going to be 0.17. Okay, this is looking great. So I'm going to exit the sketch. I'm going to save. So now you'll see when we exited the sketch, it just turned into this like light blue sketch because it's not a solid feature yet. It's still just a 2D sketch. So what we're going to do is we are going to extrude this. So once again, let's go over here to extruded boss base. You can see my sketch is already selected, so I know that the extruded boss base tool is going to choose to use my sketch. Okay, here it's not showing any yellow preview because last time we used up to surface. Let's change it back to blind. So now we see the yellow preview. It's extruding out 0.1 inches. That is much thicker than we want because we're just making, remember, like 1/4 of this. So it's going to be half the thickness of our actual metal prong. Half the thickness is 0.03. And we will now uncheck this box to merge result. Merge result would mean that this new solid that we're creating is going to be combined as one solid piece with any other solids that it's touching. So this gray plastic part down here is not supposed to be literally the same piece as this metal because they're two different materials. So I'm unchecking the merge result box and I'm clicking check to create the boss extrude. So now in my solid bodies folder, I have two solid bodies. One is that first plastic that we made. The other is the metal prong. So now let's add a couple more details to our metal prong before we kind of mirror it. Let's also save, Control S. So over here, we have this fillet. So remember, we used a fillet earlier to create this corner inside our sketch, this rounded corner. We can also use the fillet in basically in 3D to kind of fillet a 3D object. So let's click the fillet. And it's asking what we want to fillet here in the items to fillet. Oh, sorry, I don't know why this lag is happening. That shouldn't happen. All right, items to fillet. We are going to fillet this outer edge of our prong. So let's see, let's fillet right here. And that fillet is way too big. We need to get it to be the right size. So over here, let's put 0.02. That's looking a lot better. So something that could be happening is you might not be seeing this yellow because this preview might be on a different mode. So if we have it on no preview, you won't see the yellow. If you want to see the preview, click full preview, and then you can see what's going to happen there. So I'm going to click check, and now you can see it rounded that corner, which matches more the round shape of our metal prong. Now, let's do one more thing to this edge. This time, click the arrow under fillet and click chamfer. A chamfer is kind of like a fillet, but it's going to be flat instead of curved. So it's going to like flatten the edge a little bit. And let's click this inner circle. Remember, if you want to rotate your view, click and hold the scroll wheel and zoom in and out with the scroll wheel to get to where you want to help you select what you want. So once you hover over a line and it's orange, you know you're selecting it. If I was to click now, I would be choosing that whole inner face, face 1. That is not what I want to do. To get rid of this, you could right click and click delete, or you could click the delete key on your keyboard. So hover over until this exact edge is orange, click that. So now my dimension is not good. Let's see, let's go with 0.02 and see if that will look better. Okay, that is better. We might even go with 0.01. That looks a little large. Okay, 0.01, that will work. Now I'm gonna click check, and we have just a little kind of knockoff on the edge there. Okay, let's zoom out and see what we've got. All right, so we have 1/4 of our metal prong. Let's turn it into the full metal prong. So I'm gonna click this mirror button. It's asking what's the mirror face or plane. Let's start with the front plane. Now it's wanting to know what features do we want to mirror. I actually want to mirror a body. If you already have a feature here that's selected, delete that and instead get this bodies to mirror. You want this to be light blue. That means like this is highlighted. It's ready for you to select something. Click over here to click the body that we just made. So now you can see this preview of the new mirrored piece. We can actually mirror it. Remember, we also want to mirror it this way because we only filleted one side. So secondary mirror face or plane. For that, let's get the, I can't tell what this is called. The metal prong plane. There we go. So we want the metal prong plane, and it's already knows that we're mirroring that chamfer 1 body. It might be called something else for you. So now we see all 4 bodies kind of being previewed. That's great. I do want to check the box to merge solids. This means that these mirrored pieces are going to all combine together into one solid instead of being like 4 slices or 4 quarters of the same thing. So now I'm going to click the box to say okay. All right, that looks good. Now we have 1 full metal prong coming out of 1/2 of our plastic. We are almost done. The last thing we're going to do is to just make a very simplified hole on the bottom for the USB. To do that, we want to sketch down here on the top plane. Right now, we're looking at it from above, but we know that our sketch is occurring on the bottom. That's a little bit confusing. So I'm going to click here, the view orientation, to flip over. And I'm clicking bottom. It flipped it over. Now we're looking at it from the bottom. Let's get back to our corner rectangle. Click here. We'll just randomly click wherever, and then we'll adjust it with the dimensions. So click here. Make sure you're on the orange to be coincident with that plane and with the edge of everything else. And then just click over here. That's fine. Now get smart dimension. So let's add our dimensions to this. Let's begin with the distance from the top. So click up here at the top of your part, and here at this orange line, click again. That distance is 0.26. Then the kind of thickness of this hole, you could just click right here if you want to. That's going to be 0.23. Now we want the width. The width is 0.25, so I'm just going to click this line. 0.25. All right, and then last, the corners of this hole are a tiny bit rounded, so let's add a sketch fillet. Obviously, that's way, way, way too big. We want the parameter to be 0.02. And then we also want this one. That looks good. So click the check. Okay, our sketch is ready. We can now exit the sketch, but another shortcut that you can do if you're creating a simple feature is we could just click over to the Features tab. Oh, we need to get out of the sketch fillet first. Click check. Okay. In the Features tab, we can automatically create an extruded cut from our sketch. So let's just do that to explore another way to use the program. Now I'm going to click my scroll wheel and rotate just so I can see better what's going on. So right now, our extruded cut, this arrow is pointing out of the block. It could be different for you just depending on what you had last, but mine's pointing out of the block. Obviously, this would just be cutting out into the open air, which is not going to work, and it's also not what I want to do. So by clicking this direction, now I'm cutting in. You can also just stretch this arrow if you want to. So now you can see I'd be cutting in to there. What would be bad is if I was cutting all the way over here, I'd be making a hole coming all the way through. So I don't want to do that. I'm just going to cut in. Since this is just a fake hole, we're not really going to measure it. So just cut in part way, something like that. I have mine at 0.32, it doesn't really matter. But make sure you're cutting part way into your plastic block, but not all the way through, and click check. So now we have created a hole for our USB. So this is basically about as detailed as we're going to get with this model. The last thing we need to do is mirror everything so that it's doubled instead of this half that we've got going on now. So let's click the mirror again. It's already selecting a feature to mirror. That is definitely not what I want to do. Imagine if we were mirroring a cut hole over here into empty space. That is not logical and the program would not like that. For example, if I click it, oh, it wants me to select a plane. Oh, wrong plane. Let's see. I'm just showing you what would happen. Let's say we select the right plane and we're going to mirror this cut. It's showing this kind of alert because it's just not possible. So let's edit that. That is not, you don't have to do that. I was just showing you what would happen. Okay, delete. So we do have the correct mirror plane, which is the right plane. If you want, you can hide this plane, the metal prong plane, by like right-clicking on it to hide it when you're outside of this. Let's see, maybe it'll let me hide it right now. Not right now. Don't do it now. Okay. We want to mirror bodies. I don't know why it's not letting me show that. Why the bodies to mirror isn't there. Let me see. Oh, it's probably because I like ruined it. So let's just, I'm going to delete mine. If you made one like me, you should delete it. Let's make a new mirror. Now we see the bodies to mirror. So we see the mirror face plane. We want the right plane. We want to now choose the arrow by bodies to mirror. We're going to mirror two things. This one and this one. So I think if we click merge solids, it's going to combine everything into one, which we do not want because like we said, the metal and the plastic, those are two different pieces in our model. So we don't want to do that. So let's uncheck that box if you checked it and now click OK. So now we have almost everything done. The problem is we have 4 bodies, 2 metal prongs, right? And then we've got 2 different halves of the plastic and we want to combine those into one thing. We can do that with a feature called combine. It's not showing right now, so I am just going to type it in the search bar. So this tool combine came up, which kind of looks like 2 blocks sticking together. Click on the combine. Add is the correct operation. It's asking us what bodies to combine. Just click on both of the bodies and then press the check. And now you can see that that line in the middle that was splitting them went away. We have 3 solid bodies now, 2 prongs and the plastic part. And you can see that our hole, here, let's click the eye. You can see that our hole is now just one big hole that's like even. And that is the end of our model. So again, this is just a very simplified model. Obviously, there's a lot of features inside the hole. There's all sorts of internal parts we didn't do, but this is just to help us practice modeling different shapes and especially practice finding the axes of symmetry and using those to our advantage so we didn't have to repeat a lot of complicated steps. So make sure to save your file and you're done.